the tabulators purely do catch up to what they already know is stolen, or in reverse, which we've seen with ballot harvesting, where the tabulators have to make the quick adjustment and then all the ballots come in into the middle of the night. It seems clear as day that that's actually fact. It's not even conjecture after talking to these county clerks and these ROVs, because they will not admit that there's a hole in the election. So I got one yesterday. I'm not going to name her. I don't want to throw her under the bus, because she had a long conversation with me in her office, which I love. I let her go, just let her talk, let her believe her elections are secure, so on and so forth. But then I asked that one question. I said, hey, when it gets to the tabulator, where are your cameras located? Oh, we've got one about 40 feet back there. I said, so your cameras cannot see the ballot itself before and after it enters the tabulator? No. I said, don't you see that to be a problem? Well, I guess maybe we can tighten things up. I go, well, yeah. I mean, if you just put a $50 camera, which we've already shown them how to do, when they're putting the ballot in the tabulator, and a $50 camera when it's exiting the tabulator, at least if the tabulator makes a mistake, intentional or unintentional, right now we know immediately. And that's why this transparency system that we created is so important. Scott, what do you have to say?
My first thought was, when that answer came out, I was like, okay, cut the bullshit. That's the only response I have for any of the nonsense. Whatever reason they say, cut the fucking bullshit. A camera 40 feet back here. This is supposed to look, guys, we all know this. This is even below common sense thinking, right? It's absurdity, and it's such an insult. It's an insult to any of us when you have to point out something that a third grader could point out. Hey, shouldn't that camera be right over here? It's a crime scene, crime syndicate. And that's why, man, I mad respect for you taking this thing on and going after this at that level. But do you remember I tried to talk you out of it? I'm like, is there any way I can talk you out of this? Because
you did.
The bullshit that you're going to deal with in that machine. I worked in that machine for 10 years, and that's the crazy stuff. It was so bad back in the late 90s, 2000, 2004. This is how corrupt it was. I'd have my teams in precincts around Los Angeles. I was precinct captain on election day. So by law, and here's what everybody does. They go in, if they say Republicans and Democrat helpers can do this, they go in to the precincts on election day. Can I see the rolls to see who voted and who didn't? And what you do, those who hadn't voted yet, you tabulate that, send it to the phone banks, and then your phone people start calling voters. Hey, encourage them to come out and vote. So what would happen? It is Los Angeles. Democrats are running all these things. So I'd get calls, and basically I was an enforcer. I'd get calls, Scott, they won't give me the voter rolls. Okay, where are you? I'll be right over. I'd walk in. I was in better shape then, a little bigger. I'd walk in with my, jeans, biker boots on, tight t-shirt, walk in, look around, beeline right to the voter rolls. Where are the voter rolls? Hand them over. Here. And I'd hand them my people, outdoor go. Another ring. Where are you? I'm on my way. That's what I did all day. It was so absurd. Even back then, I'm thinking, how this thing is lost, and obviously it's much worse today. It's more like a Sunday morning cartoon watching this stuff. But I pray, honestly, that through this evolution we're in, that there is, the overarching power of we the people, pushing hard enough that, whoever steps in, the military, whatever, to say, okay, we are taking control. This is an absolute crime scene. We're taking control elections, whatever legislation they got to pass, burning all the voter rolls and starting again. And Jovan Pulitzer and I had a show and several discussions on if you go to Twitter, X, type in the search thing, hashtag burn the voter rolls. Type that in there. Go to the 2 videos. Watch one of those videos he has up there, and you'll see the picture. because there's 30 to 40 million fraudulent voters in this country. And if we don't burn these rolls and start again, like Trump said, one thing that Trump said during this week, I'm watching it, State of the Union, we need voter ID, whatever else he said. And I'm like, you better freaking say it, because that isn't enough. People come across the border. These criminal governors will give anybody a social security number, and with that number, they can get a driver's license. And with that driver's license, they can go vote. And then Trump, when he said this during the State of the Union, and he says, and we need proof of citizenship, I'm like, you better say that, man. You better say that, because without proof of citizenship, they're still going to steal elections, period. Anyways, so there's a lot.
They don't even need that to steal elections, because when the voter rolls are so jacked up, I audited one city on my own. I took the voter rolls, I separated them within a spreadsheet, put everything around, and 42% of those voters should have been invalid. 42%. So we know those are going out and getting the duplicates. I know, because I had a roommate in our house several years ago, and he's still getting a ballot at our house, and he lives in Oklahoma now. So it is absolutely ridiculous the way that it is. The challenge, Scott, you may know this, is when we purge the voter rolls, they're right there on the back end, entering them back in again.
Of course they are.
Crazy. We've seen it firsthand, and it just blew us away. Bruce, what do you have to say about this? I know you're deep into this in investigations.
Well, I mean, it is insane. I mean, it doesn't take a lot. You don't have to be a rocket scientist. And that's, I think, one of the intentional situations that they have placed upon us via programming, MK Ultra brainwashing, or whatever you want to call it. And they've complicated it, all the legalese and all the legislations like that. Because here in Florida, same thing. We have, rules, laws in place for them to go through and clean the rolls, but that process that they have to go through and clean out those rolls is so laborious and so ridiculous. I mean, it's nearly impossible for them to want to, or to have the ability to remove somebody. They give so much deference to keeping people on the rolls, and that's why the bloating is always happening. We've seen it. I mean, I think it's Harmeet Dillon that's working with the DOJ, requesting the voter rolls from all the states, and there's many of the blue states are fighting in court. Many of the red states have submitted them already, so that they can kind of correlate. And this is just common sense. You should have to. I mean, this is another thing that's frustrating. If there's very few people that really give a shit, right? I mean, 350 million people in the United States, and the last couple elections were allegedly super high turnout. In the 150-ish or so million people voting, so that's less than half. And then, with what Scott said, 30 to 40 million, we know. So, I mean, there's still 100 million people that are voting, or 200 million people that are voting. People don't care, right? And there's a lot of people that have that apathy, that have given up. They don't even consider voting. They know it's a corrupt system, so they don't even play the game. And that's part of the problem. They should purge the rolls, and you should have to re-register. It should be, I would think it would be an obligation as a civic duty for you to be able to vote, to have to vote. Make it a national holiday. Trump's talked about that. Many people have talked about making a national holiday, instead of, the absentee voting that just we know is rife with criminality. That needs to be curtailed back to what it was supposed to be, right? Overseas people, disabled people, very specific and intentional reasons why people would get a mail-in ballot. Not just send out a ballot to every friggin' address that's in the state, and then you got people sitting there collecting them. We've seen it, California specific, even just recently. They're paying homeless people to sign these petitions to get these things on the voter roll, or on the ballot. These initiatives. California's constitution is pretty clear, and it's very easy for we the people to take control and get stuff on, but they have manipulated, obfuscated, and stolen that ability, and they're just paying homeless people to sign fake names on these things to get stuff on the ballot. So until we can get something straightened out, man, we're facing an uphill battle. I see slow progress happening, but it's not quick enough to happen for these midterms, and that's one of the I don't. One of the scariest things that's could potentially happen is they steal it. We lose the House and or the Senate, and then it's over for doing anything with Congress, because then everything in the next 2 years is going to be impeachments and prosecutions and dragging Trump and his family and everybody that's associated with Trump into Congress and doing all these bullshit hearings. So we have to step up, and there's just not enough people willing to put their life or put their money where their mouth is and stand up. So this is where the battle that we have between now and November to try to get this thing to happen.
Yeah, for sure. But a lot of you guys understand construction, building cars, and so on and so forth. When it's a mess, you bring it down to its foundation, and you have to rebuild it. But for on Earth, I wouldn't understand why we wouldn't just do the same thing with the voter rolls and the election system. It's just bring it down to its foundation and just rebuild it. It seems like a no-brainer. We know why we won't do it, because there's so much corruption involved. Michael, as an ex-Californian, perched on the other side of the border, stalking California from your site, what do you think?
That's true. I am stalking. So waiting for you to win so I can come back. So it's a lot bigger. It's a lot bigger than California. It's a lot bigger than the United States. It's deep state activities, CIA level stuff. So I can take you guys back several years, all the way back to 2004 and 5, when I was in Afghanistan, talking to the chief of station, who's I can't tell you who he was, but because I don't want to give him away. But he told me that the election would be won by Hamid Karzai, and it was won. And there was no way he could win, because there was enough of the bad guys that were going to come in and vote that they would have put whoever they wanted in, and that wouldn't have been good. So I started to see that this manipulation goes around the world, and President Trump, God bless him, he found his way into through the system to the top, and now we're collapsing the system. Will it be soon enough by the midterms? If it's not, then we're going to lose California for sure. It will be gone forever. It will be problems within many other states that are deeply rooted in deep state activities. And it goes even further again, because you see in California, where your governor has basically hijacked the infrastructure for fuel. So now we're in the Middle East again, and I think Trump, just like he did with Operation Warp Speed, he accelerated that takedown of America in the world, so that it would put them off footing and eventually collapse their desire to control the world. If Hillary had won, it definitely would have been. So now I think he's basically accelerated another takedown of the world, very, very similar to what we saw in the lockdowns back in 2000, 2001. So this time they're going to do it with no fuel, all right? So they're going to try and take out the fuel. It's already happening. Australia is already starting to lock down to a certain extent. Shelves empty. It's the same process, probably worse, unfortunately, that's coming for us. So drawing the light to this early on, hopefully, we'll continue to be able to do this, because, they took us all down during the COVID when we were trying to warn everybody back then. So I'm putting out the warning right now. We're heading for another lockdown, right? It is coming. It's a tsunami that's coming. And if we get to the high ground right now, we'll survive it. But unless we do, we won't. And people like yourself, Lewis, whether you win or not, you're bringing enough attention to this. I know God talked to you and had you come and run. So maybe you're going to get to the top. Maybe you bring enough information to turn things around. I know that President Trump has also started the fuel, the oil, to start to flow again offshore. So will the environmentalists come in and shut that down again like they have in the past? I don't know. It's probably in the court system right now trying to stop it. But it's probably California will be the first to start to ration. I would say, because you have a governor there that's running for president, and he wants to make an impact, just like he did with COVID. So it's you guys in California, and I'm watching from the other side. I'm like, oh, buddy, here we go again.
It's interesting to say that. So, um, being a native of California, I actually grew up through gasoline rationing in the 70s, where it was, I remember it was, if you had an odd number on your plate, you can go Monday, Wednesday, I think Friday, and even number could be Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, something to that effect. Now here's what's interesting, and this is the lack of common sense from the deep state. So for some reason they thought the best thing to do is have you go every other day to the gas station. Somehow that rations gas, and you're going to use less gas, but you're sitting in a line that's a mile long with your car on, getting to the pump. Even when I was a kid, I'm like, how is this saving gasoline? It's ludicrous. And we jump through the hoops and so on and so forth. I could absolutely see that around the corner. Now, this is where we have to inject some common sense, and I wish sometimes, and I know, okay, let's assume there's a plan. If there's a plan, I'm wrong. But if there's not a plan, Trump could do better at the messaging from his standpoint. So, for example, suddenly gas prices, especially in California, have just skyrocketed during ever since we bombed Iran, right? Well, but people need to know that Iran controls virtually no oil. They have about 10% output, and that's just in the Middle East alone. That's it. And it takes 6 months for you to process oil, refine it, ship it, and get it actually to a pump. So it's ludicrous for it to even affect us financially here almost ever, but immediately. That's the game that they've been playing for so long. Scott, you're an oil country. What do you think about that?
100%, which actually kind of surprised me. I didn't realize that they're at a 10%, production distribution capacity. I guess you're talking world supply. Kind of surprising.
No, that's just Middle East. That's just the Middle East. They don't have much of a world supply.
Okay. Well, with the so many things about this Iran, incursion operation, whatever, that are starting to mystify me. Honestly, so many things I'm seeing out there, and it's really, really difficult to figure out what the truth is with all of it. But the further we go in this, the deeper the reasons are why we're there, in my opinion, because, I've looked at this thing from any perspective I've had for the last 30 years. And there's some things that don't make sense to me. Some things are disconcerting. And I just have to keep, relying back on the intelligence we saw. And I was actually running a search here on that intelligence to see where it was, where there was a drop. And I did find it talking about midterms potentially being pushed. And seeing where that, in one of these drops, it talks about, it's going back to the Mahler days, and it talks about, why did Sessions pick Rosen? Few have facts, few know the plan, and it says midterms in red, and it says in the brackets, save and push. So I'm wondering if there's a staging going on here, back to the midterm thing. So there's so many forces in play to this operation that it's hard for even me to get a handle on. I think there's a primary, secondary, and tertiary reasons why this is happening, right, in that scope. So that really doesn't answer your question. I was a little distracted trying to get that information to talk about these midterms. So
it actually makes, well, it's interesting because I actually, believe it or not, when I announced my running last June, I said I still wouldn't be surprised if the midterms were suspended. That was almost a year ago, because you can see this thing bubbling up. But in regards to Iran, and I'll bring it over to Bruce, this is a what if scenario. And I don't know why I believe this. I'm listening to the rhetoric from the White House, and I said a long time ago, I believe there's a Trojan horse thing where they're cozying up to Israel while they're completely removing the infrastructure that supports Israel. all the finances and the media and so on and so forth. I think it's a Trojan horse. This is a what if, and I was telling somebody this yesterday, and they were blown away. And this is just a what if. I believe it's possible because I've heard President Trump talk about denuclearization. I've heard the Prime Minister Modi of India talk about denuclearization, and Putin has kind of mentioned it a couple times. Imagine that we go in there, and he's already announced that we've set back Iran 30 years on their nuclear weapons program. Okay, so that's already done. What if now, with the way Israel behaves, we somehow, with the rest of the Arab countries, can pressure Israel and the Arab countries into denuking? India already has said that this is maybe something they'd want to do in the future. Well, we know the reason why Pakistan has nukes is because of India. So India and Pakistan can come to agreement, and they denuke. Russia and United States do it, and they have to somehow pressure China and do it. What if this whole plan, or part of it, because I agree with you, there's so many subsets of stories that could happen here, Scott. What if this really comes down to denuclearizing the world? And why that could be possible is because we have direct energy weapons now that, by the way, have been shown publicly that we've proven we don't even have to have nukes to make pinpoint strikes. I believe, and then you can imagine, and I said this to my wife, you can imagine Trump has denuclearized the whole world, and the crazy whacked up blue-haired liberals, some of them will still have an issue with that. But it's just a thought. And let's start with you, Bruce, and let's just play around with this. It's just something seems like it's a lot bigger than we know right here.
Oh, 100% is way bigger than we know. And there are certain people, because I scan everything. I look at try to find I need all the data that I can get, because we know that there is mis and disinformation on both sides, and the propaganda is thick on both sides. But if you really pull back and take the 30,000-40,000 foot view, what you said, I believe, is ultimately that may not be the ultimate end game of denuclearization, but it's not no secret that you mentioned, or not no coincidence that you mentioned India, because India is part of the sovereign alliance that we've been aware of, being Russia, Putin, Xi, Modi, Trump, and the guy in Iraq, right? So there is bigger things going on, and this play in Iraq or Iran is not about solely about energy. It's more about exposing and defanging, if you will, and putting. It's been a pincher movement. They think the deep state thinks that this was they set up Trump to get into this forever war, but really it's a reverse pincher type movement, because he has exposed and is continuing to expose the fallacy and all the BS that's going on in the European Union, the NATO, and then the oil stuff. They're starving. We, the United States, have been the slush fund for the entire world. We have, forked the bill, forked over the bill for all the military stuff. Every time these guys get, something a little scary going on, they call, United States comes in to save the day. Well, that's not that. We are in the process of defanging and exposing the European Union, and we're bringing back every country needs to be sovereign on its own. So this is the play, the one world order, the new world government. The European Union was kind of that initial, trial type of thing to start to grow. But no, we're going to be taking that down. This is the things that. So if you look, I read a couple of Substacks. One of them, I really, really like this guy. He goes by the Substack. His name it's called Burning Bright, is the name of the Substack, and he has been writing, narratives and things like that. He's been watching and seeing, and the stuff that Trump is saying is really mind-boggling to people, because he's saying things are on both sides of his mouth, right? He's de-escalating, he's escalating to de-escalate. He's saying one thing and then another thing which seems to be completely contrary, but this is all on purpose. I've seen it, and I resonate with it within my being, because that's what we need to do, because all this chaos that's seemingly going on all around us, we need to focus and be connected to our creator, source, God, whatever you want, because that's the ultimate source of truth, and you learn and develop that intuition, and Michael's an expert at that type of stuff, to be able to see through all the bullshit. So, this play in Iran is, I believe, for a denuclearization, a world peace type of situation, and it's going to come down to these instead of being a unipolar, one world government type of thing, it's going to be a multipolar. All these countries are going to get their sovereignty back, and you can see it. People are rising up. The populist movement that's happening in Germany, Europe is basically crashing and burning. They've gone all in on that Green New scam and new energy. Now the oil's dried up for them, and Trump says, "Hey, do you want the oil? You got to go get it yourself. I'm not going to be your enforcer anymore." So this is all exposing, and this is what I'm seeing from that perspective.
Michael, it seems to me that the more President Trump aligns with Israel, the more Israel deep state seems to get exposed. And with your master discernment, what's your thought about what's going on over there?
Yeah, having been in the Middle East for a good portion of my life, in combat zones and so forth, and training with the Middle Easterners, and so I can tell you that Iran by far is the fomenter of the terrorism. So once we take away that, then the Middle East is basically going to be great. Still have to clean up some of the radicals, but a lot of the countries outside of Iran, keep a pretty good tab on them, keep control of the radicals in their own way. So I think that this is basically, like Bruce is talking about, it's the takedown of the nuclear system. That's why we went into Iran, to take it down. We're exposing NATO, like Bruce was talking about as well. I think we're probably going to pull out of NATO because NATO won't even let us, on the basis that we have in NATO. So they're telling us, unless you're supporting us in the stuff that we want, we're not going to support you. So it's pretty much a done deal. We're going to pull out of NATO. I've been saying that for a little while now. Now, oil production, the U.S. has the largest oil production in the world, 21.91 million barrels per day. The next one is 11.13. That's Saudi Arabia. And Russia has 10.75. So 22% of the world total comes from the U.S., which is more than the next two, Saudi Arabia and Russia. Now, we use 20% of what we produce, so we don't need anything from any. In fact, we're exporting and doing a really good job. Probably these numbers are even higher because I'm looking at the best I could do is April 2024. So Trump's back in, and Trump is like, drill, baby, drill. So there's a lot more oil out there now than it was back in 2024 coming from America. Now, Trump has talked about how he was dealing in the background to end this war. The person that was doing the dealing was a Pakistani general who Israel blew up. So, the deep state is still active here. And even with our best made plans to end this, like Trump looked like he was moving towards ending this, it just got foiled by the deep state from Israel. So yeah, we have deep state here, of course. Pretty much all of our Congress and Senate is deep state. We need to clean that out. So I think most of those people are treasonous. So when does that get exposed? I think it's going to start getting exposed this month. So, things are really going to start to cook. I did a show yesterday morning, and there was so much information coming in, like the pilot, that had ejected from two pilots that ejected from their craft. They said they found one, and then they said they found the other, and now they're saying the other one's still out there. I'm like, the disinformation is so fast and so furious. It's hard to keep up with. So I was going to go live, and it's like an hour later, after I was digging up more information, I went live. So it's coming so fast and so furious right now, the destruction of the deep state, and then the trying to soften the blow. I guess the deep state is trying to say, well, we're still in charge and we're doing this. We're shooting down planes now in Iran, while the IRGC is starting to mutiny and starting their own little civil war against each other. So, how long is this going to last? I say probably a couple, 2, 3 more weeks, but we'll see.
Can't wait till you see a couple pilots jettisoned from the Artemis rocket, that real rocket going to the real moon. Um, Scott,
Allegedly.
yeah, you have some incredible spiritual discernment that we've talked about before, and publicly, a lot of people have seen your journey, which is it's really cool. I want to mention something in chat, and I want you to speak to this. It's from Kathy Weber. She says, "We are deep in labor pains of this new birth of the new nations. Having to take out the evil and world peace has to happen to move this world onto this jubilee God promised us." What's your thoughts on that?
Oh
Yeah,
I think all of us. Oh, I'm
go
sorry.
ahead, Mike.
Go, Scott.
No, I want to hear your thoughts, Mike. Go ahead.
So yeah, I think that all of us are on the same opinion that we're moving into a golden age, Renaissance in consciousness is what I've called it for quite some time, for almost a decade now. So we're definitely moving into this golden age. But of course, the birthing pains that we're going through right now, it's pretty dramatic, and it won't be traumatic, but it will be dramatic. Unfortunately, for some, they're not going to make it because their consciousness is at the level that it needs to be. And there's going to be a fall off. We've already seen a fall off from the vax. There's even more people that are falling off from that. As the days go by, unfortunately. But that is part of the discernment. So the discernment has to happen, and that's part of the raising of the consciousness. As your consciousness raises, you're able to discern the little clues that President Trump gives us. That I say this, but it's not what it really is. So you have to be able to discern, the conversations that are happening. And some people are just like, they just want to hear what they want to hear and then just go on with life. And that's very tragic for them often. But yeah, I think we're going into a golden age. No question about it.
Yeah, I do too. 2 comments on this Iran conflict, and then I'll answer that, Lewis. I like, the ladies at Promethean Action. To me, what they're exposing makes the most sense. This entire operation and all the things that are coming off the hub of the wheel, the spoke in every direction, this is the takedown of empire. This is a takedown of the British Empire, who's always used its proxies, i.e. Iran, i.e. Israel, all their proxies to carry out this chaos on the planet. And that's how they always keep us, focused on, look, if we're supremely focused on collectively on a certain dynamic in the world of geopolitics, you can rest assured that is not the real center point of what we should be talking about. Usually diversions. I think a lot of this stuff that, like we talked earlier, many things that are happening here in this operation and what's going on. Look, the fact of the matter is, you want to get biblical, we do not move into this age until Israel's wiped off the map. Everybody runs around being a Christian. Again, I'm born again Christian since I was 14. Studied divinity for 20 years. That's why I threw the Bible overboard, or God overboard, in 1999, walked away, and quantum physics became my new Bible. I literally said, F you, I'm done, drop the anvil, because it was tearing my soul apart. Trying to be a good man and being told, you have an angry and a vengeful God. You need to fear God. I'm God fearing. I'm like, fear is of the devil. This is all program bullshit. And if I forget this, Poppy, bring me back to sand in the gears, because I need to throw some sand in the gears of this conversation. But here's the thing. I'm on the phone yesterday with 2 good friends of mine, Anthony and Rick, and they get together. They want an update. Like, what did you get? I had 2 hours with Juan a couple nights ago, and got a lot of information, and they wanted to know. And of course, we're talking about the dynamics of this thing, but it turned into me getting half a gasket was starting to come apart. And I went on this rant about, the Bible and Christians and all this kind of stuff, and pointing out the bullshit in the Bible and the things I was saying. They got quiet. But one of these guys, he cuts you off all the time. He's so excited and excitable, and he's like, his vibration is like this all the time. It's first time I heard this man. I love this man. First time I've ever heard him quiet for 10 minutes. When this gasket went on me, and I'm just laying so much shit down, and I'm thinking, I don't have these things bookmarked in my studies and all my notes and can go down through this sequence. When it happens and it's done and smoke's coming out of my ears, I'm like, Jesus, where'd that come from? Right. And that's why I think there's like a divine guidance system that if you're awake, it'll work for you. But I was hitting everything that would probably get most people in trouble, the things that I was saying. But it slammed both of these guys, and it resonated, and they could see the field of religion, the field of Christianity, or whatever, the smoke clearing. It's like, cut the bullshit, turn the other. If somebody hits you, turn the other cheek. Oh, really? That's what I'm supposed to. Somebody punch me in the face. Here, hit me over here. If I turn the other cheek, it's because I'm reaching for a ball bat to take your head off. Did Christ act that way? Did he act that way? Thank God he didn't, because the world would be completely burning in hell now. He didn't turn the other cheek. He went into their temple. He beat their asses. People don't talk about. He beat their asses and threw them out, smashed their tables. That is what Christianity is. It's a full contact operation. It's an action plan. And this is how we have to behave to take this empire down. It's got to be not just, as I said before, we can take empire down with military operations and all that. But if we don't have this spiritual ascension, if we don't have this great awakening, they'll be back in power in 50 or 100 years. So, and at the end of the day, after this conversation, and I said, guys, this is the only reason that I can tell you, since they stole the 2020 election, and before that, but I've been in absolute peace ever since. And I see all this now. That chaos has been part of my whole life in the political world, from 1990 till 2006, when I walked away because I realized it was a crime scene, until Trump announced, like right up until then, chaos. Trump comes in, I see the speech, he runs, and it's like the vibration goes up. I'm thinking, oh my God, it's really happening. There's the guy that I never saw coming. And then, of course, 2020 happens, and I was like, here we go. This is awesome. And that's why I did that podcast. It just went nuclear, right? I didn't plan on doing that. And I've been, I don't even talk about the midterms. I'm not worried about it. I don't care what happens in the midterms. I do, but regardless of what happens, it ain't gonna make a difference. This is our time. We are rising in the angelic form right now. Look around you, folks. Look at the attention. The people in the world are looking at geopolitical conflicts, this whole thing. And I really think there's as they're deconstructing empire, it's gaining the attention of everybody. It don't matter if it's a negative or a positive vibration attention they have looking at it. They're looking at it. They're coming awake. People are waking up. So the thing that I would say, as far as wanting, and again, I just don't have any concerns. Oh, we can take an ass kicking. Yeah. I think we're going to have the bond collapse. That was what I talked to Juan about for an hour. The bond collapse is catastrophic. It's going to be 60 times worse than 2008. We had 24 hours. That's it.
I can't hear Scott. Can you hear Scott still?
He froze up on my end.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't think they liked what I said. I saw it's all kind of, I went silent on mine. But anyway,
you said 24 hours and then you froze.
Yeah, it's 24 hours. I guess they didn't like, because everybody's screen went into buffering. I'm like, oh, F you. This is coming out anyways.
Yeah.
So they had 24 hours to pull off their crime scene to pad all these banks. If they didn't do it, Juan told me it would be catastrophic, right, to the whole world. This time, when it gets to that point, he talked to Jamie Dimon of JP Morgan personally. And he said, yeah, the bond collapse is coming. 5 weeks, 5 months, 5 years, we don't know. 60 times worse. I have about 15 minutes. So I've said before, until we all collectively take an ass kicking, we are not going to wake up out of this thing, right? So I hate to say it, but I think that's coming. And I think I was saying this 6 years, it has to happen, because we are still complacent on this planet to where if we just all rise up collectively, or at least 1/100th of a percent of the planet rises up just like this, it's over. They'll go in full retreat because they know there's nowhere to hide. There's too many people. But we still can't get people. I mean, there's millions, probably 100 million people out there today joining the fight. It's a lot, but we need more. But until we get to that point, to be smashed in the forehead, to wake up out of the dream spell that the whole planet's in, that they built, to contain us, we can't get to that new age, the new era of poverty or peace for everybody and everything. But here's one thing I'm going to throw in here. We can keep talking about oil all day long, right? We can do this for another 50 years, this back and forth oil energy. Look, we've got enough oil in the Bakken oil fields in the Dakotas. This U.S. Geological Survey released this in the 90s. There's 300 years worth of energy at the current state back around 2000. 300 years worth of oil up there for the whole freaking world, right? So ask yourself, if we have that much oil, why were we buying from the Middle East or anywhere else? It's their game. It's their architecture. It's this whole thing. How do we end that? Really simple. Let's have 1 billion people say, cut the bullshit. Where is 0 point energy? Why can't we have it? We don't need to have wars and oil discussions. Give me the theory of magnetism in front of the whole world. You can't get an education. You can't get a class in high school, in college. You can't get a degree in magnetism. You can't. That's Tesla's entire work, right? But yet there's nowhere on earth that they will teach us about this infinite loop of energy. That's why you see these people create these free energy devices. We got a couple magnets and they wire this thing up and then they boom, just kick it off. And the magnet keeps pulling it back and forth. It'll go forever, right? Which can do what? Turn a little turbine, create energy. Right. So if we want to, yes, we have to talk about the oil situation. All this stuff is part of our exposure, awakening, or whatever. But we, as a human species, need to say, all that going on over there, gas price going up. Hey, cut the bullshit. Where is 0 point technology? You got it up there. You got it in places on the planet. You guys have been using it forever. You're hiding it. We don't need to have this discussion. Where is my 0 point energy, free energy, right?
Well, that's part of the system, the deep state system that they've put upon us that we've been living under since the dawn of time, pretty much. It's engineered scarcity. This whole oil thing is a psyop. And then we see the gas prices, here in Florida, it's like $4.20 or something. You see the gas prices, oh crap, so we get into this fear flight mode. And if it's all that these guys do is this fake psyop crap, it's all engineered scarcity when we do not have to live there. We can have a life of abundance if we choose to. And we got to, the problem is fighting and taking these people down. I believe Trump is starting that process. But like Scott said, it's going to take a huge number of people finally standing up and saying, "Fork off! I'm not going to play the game anymore." And then that's when it changes.
Yeah, let me touch on a couple of things that Scott says because it's fascinating conversations. You hit on a lot, but real quick, in regards to the bonds, I actually worked directly with the attorney that's been investigating and trying to get these bonds, the infiltrators, prosecuted. There is a fix there, and actually, I had this discussion with Juan just about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, that we keep avoiding, and that we keep saying the fix is more taxes. Michael, I think you may have heard me say this. You have to clean your own house up first. So in California, WARF, which I've named waste, abuse, redundancy, and fraud, is probably about 75%, right? So you get rid of the WARF, and now you have a surplus immediately where you can start addressing these things. We never talk about cleaning our house up. We always talk about going back to the people to fix the problems that the deep state has created, which is just disgusting to me. That's one. In regards to 0 point energy, you and I have talked about this in extent, Scott. We are on the same page. Absolutely, the 0 point energy. I'm blessed now that I'm actually talking to some people that are involved in that. Now, they don't want to come out public. We know why, but these are discussions we're having. But there's even a bridge to 0 point energy that at least people should talk about, and that's SMR type technology, small modular reactors that could be put in the ground and use the existing infrastructure. That's going to cut everything by 50%. I personally have seen equipment that we can build on landfills that has a 97.5% usage of the landfill, turning that into energy, which would reduce our energy by 60%. At minimum, we could do that to get away from all this oil talk, reduce it while we are building 0 point energy. Now, why am I saying we use a bridge there? Because if true 0 point energy is an individual operation where every single home can have their own energy source, right? It's going to take 20 to 30 years probably to lay it out completely to get to that point. It is very important that we get there. Why are they so afraid of 0 point energy? Because that is true sovereignty right there. You can produce energy at your own house. You can virtually do anything right there. And you need zero government intervention whatsoever. And I mean, even powering your own direct energy weapons to protect your property. That's how far it can go if you do 0 point
Look
energy.
how big Mike's smile got right there. You said that.
Yeah, right.
personal due system on my
I like
property.
that one, yeah.
Right. It makes sense, right, Mike? So
Yeah, absolutely.
And then real quick, I want to touch on, I don't want to gloss over your conversation on Bible and Christianity, because in my opinion, it's always been man's manipulation of the word that's been the problem. And I'm going to use my favorite scripture by far is Matthew 5:5, the meek shall inherit the earth. Well, we've been brainwashed and psyoped to think that meek means docile and weak throughout time. What a great way. And you know what's proof of this? Only 22% of Christians come out to vote. The lowest demographic out of all demographics in voting. Christians are 22% because they're told just pray, everything's going to be fine. But if you really study the origins of the word meek, it's fantastic. Even going from the Greek translation, it was a horse called Praus. That was a war horse. That was the war horse in the stable that did what? Protected all the other war horses. That's what meek means, right? Moses walked through the desert 40 years. He was called meek. Well, you've got some big balls to be able to do that, in my opinion. Jesus called himself meek. Christ, which is the truth, in my opinion, Christ, and that word means a lot if people really want to look into it. Christ called himself meek, and he's flipping over tables. So it's the man's manipulation for control. And I'll leave you guys with this one part. There's a passage in the Bible that my wife talked about that all the new Bibles, it's being eliminated. And it's Matthew 17:21, because it talks about how we can fast and manifest through prayer. Interesting that they've removed that. If you go to the KIVs and all the new Bibles, 17:21, it goes from 17:20 and it skips to 17:22. Because the most powerful stuff that gives us personal autonomy and sovereignty, that's the stuff that man wants to keep us from. And people say, Lewis, you're not a Christian because you don't go to church. I don't go to church in except there's one church in Yuba City that I do attend because he's very awake, and he's actually endorsed me. But I don't go to church because I don't believe that I need a conduit between myself and Christ. I believe we're directly connected there.
You are the church. That's what Christ told us. It isn't a building. It isn't a location and somebody you have to listen to. Look, I go to Pastor Bob's church. It's the one church I go to. I consider him a good friend. And I love what his message is. God's inside of you. He said, and Christ said, the kingdom of heaven is within. They make us think it's an external place we're going to. And I understand I'm rattling a lot of cages here. They believe it's an external. They want us focused. I mean, think about it, folks. There's a mansion for you and streets paved with gold. In a realm like that, who the hell needs a street, let alone paved with gold? What good is that? That's a matrix mindset. You need a mansion? I mean, this is all matrix construct, and they have us in one, and they think, well, you're not going to get it here, but you'll get it there. So just sit back and pray and take a beating. We parrot this stuff all of our lives because we believe it's all true. And I've thrown this wrench out at every major church stage in the country I've been on, which was many of these big ones. The whole Reawaken America tour for 2 years many of these were big church stages. And I've said it every time with pastors sitting in the front row and telling the crowd, folks, The single worst thing that has ever happened to the human species is religion, right? Because our creator is not going to throw down three major religions and it's now branched out to $26,000 or 26,000 sects of religions. Would you do that to your kids? Would you confuse them? That it's absurd. It's all absurd. And I've said before, look, if it was all 100% the reality of truth of the consciousness of Christ and our Creator was always there and all of it in its full power, why do we have 8 million kids being butchered by these Satanist rituals and animals every year? Obviously, it isn't. So therefore, we don't have the full picture, and that full picture is that Christ said the church is the people that follow Christ's message, which is what? The overarching construct of the quantum realm of all of God's creation. It's let's call it a system or an architecture. You work in concert with it, and you can create anything. You can manifest anything. Consciousness, manifestation. Those are all the things that Christ talked about. If you work against it, it's always an uphill battle of defeat. So if we're anchored in this psychology of religion, or whatever you want to call it, even Christianity, we're so far off base of that too, because we're nullifying the power of Christ's life and his message, right? And because if we truly had it all, we would be walking on water. What's that? A high frequency vibration that can allow it to happen. Hands-on healing, quantum physics. Christ was bringing a message to the world. Stop listening to their bullshit. Here's how creation works. Here is God's work. I am here to show you. Everything's a metaphor. I am the Son of God, right? I'm the Son of God. We all are, right? So we're sons and daughters of our Creator. We are made in the likeness and image, which means what? We can do exactly the same thing our Creator has done. We're all co-creators, sub-creators, and do what Christ did. But we can't get to the baseline of all of that truth. And believe me, I love living in Texas. I'm in the Bible Belt, but I don't go to church. Why? I don't need to. Like Lewis said, I don't need an intermediary. But I love that Cowboys ask me, "Hey, did you find a church here now? Now that you live here?" I'm not pressured. I don't feel pressured. No, I don't. Not yet. But I love that they ask me, because what does that mean? Good men and good people and women want to live a godly life. I love being in that vibration, that environment. So folks need to wake up to that too. We are the church of Christ, us, right? The carriers of the Christ consciousness. Anyways, I got to rein myself in most every time I open my mouth, because I just can't, I get so rattled, because it's like, how can we not see this as a human species? But we are getting there.
Yeah, it's interesting. So one of the biggest challenges I see for sure is the intercession of the churches, where they want to put the person at the front and the church before God. And there's history of this. And the Jesuit army was created because Ignatius of Loyola was asked to, by the Pope at the time, to take care of the Protestants that were saying, "Pope, don't put yourself and don't put the Catholic Church before God. God comes first," right? Therefore, their answer to that is go kill the Protestants. That was the answer. So I have no challenge with the church if they're saying you have a direct connection to God, but we're just worshiping together. Right? That's cool. But unfortunately, a lot of what I see in many churches are exactly the opposite, where they, for some reason, I don't even know if they believe it, but they know there's control when they're their intercessor between the church. And that's where, I mean, between you and God directly, that's where I have a huge problem. So do I have a problem with church? No, I do actually. I believe church is between the temples, but that's my own personal belief. But I've been to some phenomenal churches, but they have the same belief system that I have, and they don't feel like they're the intercessor. But unfortunately, most religions and most churches, it's a control mechanism, and that's really the challenge that I see. Michael, what do you have to say about this? And we'll go to Bruce.
Yeah, that's the unfortunately, I think most religions are control mechanisms, like we're all talking about. We've all talked about this for a long time, but helping people see that because of the MK Ultra. They're fabulous at MK Ultra in churches. I like to go to church. Occasionally. It's great communion, great people, high morals, but even some, like Scott talks about, some of those people can be, I'm sorry, like Nazis, right? So, and kind of not sorry, really. You need the real truth. You need the hard truth sometimes. But I agree with you. The real temple is in between your temples, and your connection to God, like my connection to God, has been phenomenal over time, and that's because of my desire to have that connection and my willingness to go outside of the church and explore those potentials. And I feel that I have a very rich connection with Source, with Jesus, and on and on and on. They're there for you, but the church is intermediary, which basically blocks a lot of that.
Truth.
But
Yep.
get everybody
Truth.
angry. Bruce.
Truth right there. Truth right there. I mean, the good grief. Yeah. I mean, this is, again, part of the whole deep state controlling mechanism they put on us, where they have implanted in us a need for a savior complex. And it's not only within the church, but it also, you can see it expanding out, where Trump is like that. He's almost, he's like the second coming. Some people within the MAGA movement have almost put Trump as he's a cult figure, right? He's a cult figure, and there's even a faction of people within the truther community who believe that he is, tied to somehow to the Jesus bloodline, and he actually really is the second coming. I don't believe that myself, and I could be wrong. I don't have that information, but it just doesn't make any sense. But the controlling mechanism, like Michael talked about, is 100% true. That we have everything that we need. When Jesus was on the cross and he said it's finished, that pretty much says it right there. It was done. We don't need anything else. We have everything inside of us. I mean, if anybody wants to, Q talks about many times expanding your thinking, question everything, but yet you can't. Here's the thing about propaganda too. When you start to question Christianity or the Bible, that's just like, oh, sacrilege, man. You're a heretic, for questioning any of this type of stuff. But we're told to question everything. And if people really want to do some research and find out, go within yourself and look. I mean, just one story, the story of Noah and the that they believe that's a factual situation. The story of Noah and the flood predates the Bible by thousands of years, and AI has proved that they can see that this was a crafted story that they inserted into the Bible for that situation. So I mean, there's tons of stuff but you can't believe me. I'm not expecting to change your mind, but you need to take control of yourself and, go within yourself to find out and question it. I might be wrong. You might be wrong. It doesn't matter about who's being right. And that's the thing about truth. Truth is a little bit different for everybody, and everybody's on a different level and believes things in a certain different way. But the things that you cannot deny, the settled science, if you will, the truth, the universal laws, common law, natural law, those things are cemented. You cannot, the law of polarity, the law of cause and effect, all these different things that the church, labels as occult, that we're devil worshipers, because I have a crystal sitting on my desk. It's a cult, and that all the word occult, that's a fearful thing. You're worshiping the devil. Right, the New Age movement, all this stuff. They use these words, and all the word means, occult, is just hidden knowledge. Yeah, absolutely, it's hidden knowledge because the church and the people that are controlling you within the church are hiding the knowledge of the truth of God and how He set up this whole world to be. So
52 miles of bookshelves underneath the Vatican into
right, absolutely, it's all there.
Yeah, exactly. That's the whole point.
I get worked up on that one, boy. So,
that was good.
Interesting enough, now we have a beautiful, on April 1st, launch of a Artemis that's exploring the moon. I mean, it's just so amazing that we're gonna go back to the moon since 1960. It's just amazing. I'm so excited about Artemis and the moon, and yet. So I go to NASA's feed yesterday, and somehow they're showing Artemis from about a couple hundred feet away. I'm not quite sure what camera is floating out there staring at Artemis directly. I thought that was fascinating. But they kind of had a tell on themselves because in the upper left hand corner it said visualization. So they're doing this feed and this conversation where they delay the conversation and they're talking about nothing because I was curious. Um, so we all know that in 1969 we landed on the moon. It was real. I don't know about these crazy naysayers that would ever say anything like that. It's fake. And of course, then we can watch that take off from the moon, those fun little sparks, and it was just incredible. What's your thought on this whole moon stuff going on right now?
My question, I have one question. Are we really going to go this time? Because with nowadays, there's more computing power in this tracking device that everybody carries around with them than there was in the multiple floors of a building that they had back then. And I've heard people say that we didn't go back because we had somehow lost the telemetry. But during the FBI raid in Mar-a-Lago, they did find the telemetry in a box in Melania's underwear drawer. So that's
right.
why we're going back. So the deep
Right.
state got their telemetry back because they found it during the raid there. But it's ridiculous.
Ring,
to
ring.
think.
Oh, wait, hold on. Ring, ring. Sorry,
Yeah.
hold on. Hello, moon? Yes, yes. Oh, there's no delay. Wow. Why is it? Oh, because our cords, we brought that to the moon directly. Therefore, there's no delay in conversation. Hi, I'm President Nixon. It's so good to hear your voices up there. What's up, boys? Having a Heineken? I mean, what
I know.
the heck?
I know. We got to retrieve the camera guy that was up there filming the thing taking off. We left somebody up there, or something. I don't know. It's
He's
really
still waiting. Yeah.
comical.
He wrote the song, I'll be waiting.
I got to eject one here at Nancy Volker 3342. Those bums ruined my Saturday cartoon time. I miss Scooby Doo. Not sure who you're calling bums, but you should take a fork and hike. Go back to Scooby Doo.
I didn't even
Some of
know.
those
I got to do
Scooby
some
snacks.
I had to do some moderating here.
I love it. Yeah, I just ignore that stuff.
I
It's
have fun
crazy
with it.
though. I mean, the moon. Now, okay. I'll look from a pragmatic standpoint, from the mainstream point of view, but I can't get over there's no way that the first moon landing ever happened. Based on all the information we have, that would be the first Apollo moon landing. I'll let other people argue within our community about the other ones, or whether there is a moon or a disk or whatever they want to argue about. But in fact, I posted yesterday, I said, instead of having me prove that we didn't go, why don't y'all give me proof that we did go in 1969? Because there's just no real proof. It's all just fakery in my opinion. And here's what's interesting, and I'll turn it over to you guys. Did you know that 2 days ago, when the Artemis astronaut was actually interviewed?
I was going to say the same thing. Yeah, you're exactly. Yep.
Yeah, he said this is the first time we've been into what is it? Their inner orbit, and the first time we've been this close to the moon. And he's the astronaut.
I
I'm
saw
like,
that.
boom, right?
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, I checked to make sure it wasn't AI. Yeah, it's a total psyop. It's crazy. Mike, we know you've been to the moon and back, so why don't you give us your opinion on this one?
Yeah, so there's a lot of disinformation, and everything. I think that there is a possibility that we have been to the moon, and maybe we're going to the moon because I saw Osama bin Laden an hour after his side of his head was blown off. But was that really him? I'm very skeptical at this point. So over time, we kind of learn these things. Now, were some of the movies that were made that we know that they're movies now, were they made in case there was a problem, and then they would just keep the show going? it's a possibility. I don't know. But NASA, it was started by the Nazis, and Operation Paperclip brought all the scientists over. So uh, uh, von Braun, all those guys are Werner von Braun. All those guys are like, very suspect to me. So everything they did at this point is very suspect to me. So is it a possibility? Now, when I was eating my morning cereal and watching the moon landing, I was enthralled. I thought it was real. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of stuff that's come out since then that makes me very skeptical, like all of you guys. And you guys seem to be like, there's no way. So I'm kind of like in that let's observe this and see what happens. Now, the thing that would really convince me is if they gave us some video from the other side of the moon, the dark side of the moon, because they've never done that. And so why is that so sacrosanct that they can't, do that? So they have said that they're going to have video of the dark side of the moon for this trip. So if that is the case, and if it's not AI generated, then I think it's going to help a lot of people. Now, 50 years, this thing's been shut down. 50 years, like we've all talked about, we should have free energy. We should be blasting it off everywhere throughout the galaxy at this point, the whole galaxy, not just our solar system. So it is, and is that happening on another side? I think it is, but we're not privy to it. So they've dumbed us down on this level of the Earth for a very long time. Our science is all screwed up. Our math is all screwed up. Our history is all screwed up. I think that when they finally open all this stuff, I think all of us, we already done school, but we'll have to go back to school, and we'll want to go back to school to learn the real truth and kick the other bullshit out they taught us, and learn the real stuff. And that's going to advance humanity in and of itself on a massive scale as well.
I have a question for you, Mike. Do you think if they're going to the backside of the moon, obviously we know they're going to take video and photographs, all that. Why wouldn't you, right? So is this potentially the first step toward disclosure?
Brilliant. Good point. Because we know that Trump's doing that on a massive scale. I believe there's, bases there. I feel that I've been there on some reality, some level. So it's not a big deal to me that, all this disinformation comes out. I know there's something there. Will it be a disclosure? Because, Trump is of that mindset, just disclosing everything. And if that does happen, and we do this time, or again, who knows, land on the moon, because that's the intention. So this slingshot around the moon, they come back, and then we do a moon mission again, or for the first time. So could be good point, Scott.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and we talking about the moon brings into my mind, we haven't even talked about the Matt Gaetz bombshell that was dropped on us, the forced human alien breeding program that they got hidden around, that has been kind of supported by somebody else, Australian senator, and then the Tim Burchett interview. I'm sure everybody has seen that one on Newsmax, I think it was. I can't talk about it. I'm still a sitting member of Congress, but if you heard what I heard, the Earth would be on fire or something. People would be going crazy.
Yeah, he just said none of you would sleep at night.
Whatever. We have seen address. They've given us addresses and location where certain items, is the word he used, are. So, and that the question that comes, are these extraterrestrial off of our planet type people, or are they other beings from outside of the ice wall within the realm here? We can go all kinds of crazy stuff. The Terra, what we see here is only a part of what's on this piece of rock that we're on. So it could be, other beings from those things. Could be interdimensional stuff. That opens up a whole other can of worms of disclosure. And even what's that guy, Scott Greer, Dr. Greer, saying that they're getting ready to bring out a huge Project Blue Beam. They've been talking about that for a while. So we got to be prepared for anything. The things are piling up, and anything can pop off at any time. It's a pot of keg, as some people said in the past. But we have to be aware, and we have to be prepared. We got to pray for and expect the best, but we also have to prepare for the worst. right? Because Michael said there's going to be, there's going to be some type of lockdowns, rationing of fuel and different things. This is all probably a likely scenario, right? There's a high probability. It's a very plausible situation if you have put some eyes on and look at what's really going on. So, we can talk about that if you want.
What we're doing here, though, is bringing light to the darkness, and when you do that, you help people overcome the darkness that's coming.
Right.
So they can't foment it on us because we're spreading the light, and they lose. They lose.
Yep. Light is undefeated against darkness. There is no record. It's light is undefeated against darkness. Darkness cannot exist where light is present.
Yeah, I'd say, Mike, you just said one thing that I think people need to focus on is that, remember, regardless of how rocky this gets or even scary, because even in the intel we got, the question was scare event, or I don't know if it's a question or a statement, scare event necessary. I think is what it says. Scare event necessary, question mark. You have to maintain this thought no matter what it looks like, how it feels, what we go through. And this is what I was telling the guys the other day, yesterday, the day before. We win this time. We win it all. We are taking back the planet, and we're ushering back in the Garden of Eden. And again, as I said before many times, how do you know? I can't tell you how I know. I'm just telling you, I am 1,000,000% right. We win. And when this gets rough, you have to have this mindset. Forget the fear. That's what they want. You should be excited, be prepared to endure, because you can endure more than you can possibly imagine. I've had that experience in my life, what I've had to endure. You guys have, many of the audience has, Mike has, in situations that, especially as a SEAL operator, these levels that most men could never stand in those shoes for 5 minutes. And some of the highest level operators can't even get through that stuff. We are built to endure. That's been my message to people. You have zero idea of what you, who've never really done anything your whole life, are capable of doing or enduring or whatever. When this thing begins, just say to yourself, this is awesome. I am now seeing and part of the greatest show that humanity has ever seen or been part of. And this is the absolute beginning of their ending. This is when it's all coming down. That's how you have to see this, because it's a truth. This tumultuous time that we're going to all experience, because it's what's going to break us out of the dream spell. We're all going to feel it. We're humans. We're going to have some fear. I'll have some fear. Mike will, Bruce, but we'll capture ourselves and say, oh, that's right. Nothing to be afraid of, because this is us taking it all down, and they're going to fight back, and they're going to do what they can to, create some type of destructive vibration. But just remember, this is why you should be excited. All this stuff in the world that looks like it's fearful, it is the beginning of their downfall, and we're taking it all back and bringing in the angelic realm.
Absolutely. And all the pain that we've gone through over the years, or even the past few decades, have all built us and put calluses on us for the moments that are coming. We've been prepared, and we don't even know that we're being prepared for something so special. And but nothing becomes great without being uncomfortable first. If you understand weightlifting, guys, you totally understand weightlifting. You have to put yourself through some pain in order to have the gains. You have to be willing to make yourself uncomfortable to triumph in anything whatsoever. So I would say, like they say in the military, embrace the suck. That's where we are. That's where we are right now. My admin Christine is asking me to play a video. I think of something Bruce did. I haven't even seen it. Don't know what it's about, but I guess here it comes.
The governor of California situation, I encourage, because Lewis Herms is right now out there running around in the RV wrapped. He's going 58 counties, I think, in 30 days. He needs some help. It's over $300 a day just to put gas in the RV. And my lovely wife, Natalie, is out there helping him. I'm sacrificing my relationship with her, the time together. We're apart. So she can be out there helping him, and I can be here holding things down here in Florida. But she's driving the chaser vehicle, a pickup truck. So they're running all over, up and down California. They need donations. They need money. They need money for gas. They need money, to help bring we the people back to being in charge there in California. So you can go to Herms for Cali, Herms for FOR, Herms4Cali.com, and donate $5, $10, whatever you can afford. I know things are tight. Everybody's, pinching pennies. But if you can turn loose some of that coin and help Lewis out, that would be very, very greatly appreciated.
Well, thank you, Bruce. I didn't even know. Oh, there's the donate link. Thank you, Christine. I wasn't even aware of that. That's very cool. By the way, the beautiful lady next to me in the picture that you put up is your wife, Natalie.
Yeah, my heart goes a little pitter patter every time I see her. Oh.
And we've got a tight crew here right now. It's just absolutely amazing, and we're doing everything we possibly can. In fact, the 58 counties that we're traveling to, it's a rigorous journey, and that's just the 58 cities within the counties that have an election office that we're holding them accountable. And what we have to do is to create no impropriety whatsoever. When we stop at those, I'm not Lewis running for governor anymore. I'm Lewis, a resident of California. In fact, we even change the banners on the podium when we speak to make sure there's no impropriety there whatsoever, and it's completely nonpartisan. So helping us fund that is huge. In California, this will blow you away. It takes, depending on where you are, it can take up to $480 to $500 just to fill this RV. And it is absolutely phenomenally expensive. And all we're trying to do is just bring transparent elections to California. And we get a lot of verbal support, but we don't get much financial support. And it's hardship on the family. So Bruce, I appreciate you bringing that up. I had no idea. Thank you, brother. That was awesome. And Christina was really pushing me to show this, so she must have already seen it. So guys, I think we all agree we're in some form of a transitional period here. Let's start with Bruce, go to Michael, and then Scott. Give us your wise words of what's going to help the people get through this, and what did you think your outlook on the other side of this is? Let's go with you, Bruce.
I'll start with the end first. The outlook on the other side is glorious. It's going to be amazing. We are in this beginning of the golden age. Trump calls it that, the age of Aquarius. If you look and study some of that solar astrological type stuff, nothing can stop what is coming. We are going to win this, as Scott said. All of us have said we all have that positive outlook. But this transition, there is going to be some bumpy times till we get to that place. And so the best thing that we can do, rather than just sitting around our couch and consuming podcasts and being entertained, having our ears tickled, like it says in the Bible, why don't we do something that's going to further push that ball down the road? We need to start pulling the rope in the same direction. So what I've chosen to do for my personal situation is to turn inward. I need to be the best Bruce Poppy that I can absolutely freaking be. I need to be the best human. I was frustrated. I was just upset to February 2023. I was crying out, how do we get through this? Nothing was happening. The arrests weren't happening. This and that. I tend to be on this emotional roller coaster because that's just how I am a little bit. I'm not as even keeled as Lewis and other people. But I was crying out, well, how do we get through this? And one word came to me. I've said this many times. It's connections. We get through this through connections. I was like, connections? What does that mean? I need a little bit more detail, please. And then it started to flesh out. We need to be connected to, as I said earlier, God, our source, creator, the universe, however you want to put it, our higher power, because that is the ultimate source of truth. That is the ultimate source of love. Mike always talks about being in the love bubble. That's how you're going to get into that love bubble, is being connected to that. Then the second connection, there's 3 connections. The second connection, we need to connect it to ourselves. I need to find out who is Bruce Poppy at my core, not who Lewis wants me to be, not who the society, not who my wife wants me to be, these masks that we put on, these roles that we play. I need to find out, who am I? Peel back the layers of the onion, get in touch with that. And then the third connection, once you're doing that, then you can step out and then you get connected to other people. You start finding your tribe. You start, being around like-minded people. And I'm not talking about a bunch of group-think, cult-minded, yes people. We're all just, just as bad as the Democrats, but we got we're on the conservative side of things, because there's people that do that too. They all buy into everything, and they're just a bunch of lemmings jumping off a freaking cliff. Doesn't matter. The party is, the 2-party system is a joke anyway. It's another psyop control mechanism, but that's how we do it. We got to work on ourselves. So that's why I got my website, brucepoppy.com. I'm helping people to unleash excellence in their life. We all have excellence. We're all children of God. He doesn't make any mistakes. We have the excellence. It's already in us. Everything that we need is already inside of us. Scott said it earlier. But it's been buried under all the bullshit. All the masks, that we wear, the roles that we play, the stories we tell ourselves. And then the thinking. We got to change our thinking. So you got to burn the mask is the first pillar of unleashing excellence. The second pillar is the unlearn to unleash. We got to change our thinking. And then the third pillar is forge. Those first 2 things are information gathering for yourself. Forge is where you put that stuff into action. You do small, tiny reps, small little things that will make you believe, develop self-trust that the beliefs and your identity are true. You got to do just tiny little things. It takes a couple minutes, and then you build self-trust, and it starts, it started at the bottom, and now we're here. So that's what we need to do, and that's where my focus has been, and how I'm trying to help people move into the next phase of where this is going.
Yeah, I like what you said earlier, Lewis, about we're pretty much being forged right now, and those that are willing to be forged and move past this area, kind of like when I went through SEAL training and so forth, I got forged to be able to become a SEAL, and then when I was in combat zones, I got forged into how to be able to maneuver and stay alive in combat zones. So I feel like all of us pretty much are in a combat zone right now. So we're all being forged. And on the other side of this is, that beautiful golden age that we're all looking forward to. But we have to collapse this system. And the only way we collapse this system is to bring light to it. And it doesn't do that on its own. And we can't be in a cult and expect Donald Trump to do it all for us. We, the people, have to get involved. So we've all talked about this for a long time. I do see more and more people getting involved and taking action. The way you take action is like, I'm looking at my YouTube channel right now, which is, we're live over there, and it's like over 2,000 people are watching and making comments like crazy. The comments are like just blowing up. That's how we defeat them. We get together and we start to share this information, and we converse about it, and we can bring the light to it and destroy it. The darkness cannot survive with the light. We just talked about that. So unless we get involved, we will get what we get because we allow it. And that's been the way that the deep state has been slowly squeezing us, slowly dumbing us down. And we have to just like pop out of that and just get moving again.
Beautifully said. And real quick, so physically, darkness doesn't even exist. It was a word that had to be made up just because there was a lack of light. And I think that's very important to know that you touched on that. Hey, Scott, what do you have to say?
Yeah, it's interesting. I was thinking of the same point a little bit earlier, and now it's kind of that vibration. Now here you are asking this question. So I had my answer was already loaded from earlier in the show. But here's the thing. That I've been trying to, get this message across to my audience for, since we've been on the air, is that, and all these people that are watching this, and I'm gonna tell you a truth that is irrefutable for all of us. You know damn well you were born to be more than who you are right now, and you know in your own soul, you tell nobody, but you feel that ache. I know that I was born to be more than what I am right now, or do more than what you've done at this point in your life. You know it. You wrestle with it. It pisses you off because you see other people in this matrix world and have accomplished things, good things, and you're like, damn, I want to be like that. I know I can. But when you to go there, you have to get out of your comfort zone. And what most people don't understand is, I don't care how good your life is, if you're extremely successful, and if you just sit there, right there in that place, you never grow again. That is your ceiling. If you do nothing different, because that's what we want. We seek out comfort. Now, if I look at, let's say Mike's track in life, and he's he's on a battlefield, like in combat and all this stuff, I'd be thinking to myself, that'd be scared shitless. Any of us would. But there's a certain point in time where Mike's calm and he's peaceful. It's his comfort zone. You say, how can that be a comfort zone? Because he kept busting through these challenging situations. You have a divorce, you lose your house, you lose a job. All that stuff is so distressing to the human species or human being that you go into fear mode, all these kind of things. But you can't sit there because you got to live and survive. So what do? You go sit in front of an interview, you go knock on doors, you look for a job, you do things to try to start filling in the gap of these holes that's been created in your life. And what do you do? What do you learn every time? 99.9% of what you worry about or have fear of never happens. It never happens. And you waste all your energy worrying about things, but you're forced to go into action. And what do? You find a new job. You find another house, you find another soulmate, whatever. That is what allows you to become who you were born to be. So many of you, when these really tough times come to get us the other side, I'm telling you, stand up, take a leadership role. Things happen in your communities, step up, call some people, something you've never done before. Hey, we need to help these people over here. It's getting scary. Whatever you can think of, do something. Because when you come out on the other side of it, who you are then, you're going to be so happy, because you're going to say to yourself, man, I didn't think I could ever do that. I didn't think I could be this. I didn't think, you know what I mean? And that's the one thing that, if you can understand that you will end up in a tumultuous situation, you will grow to a level of comfort because you grew, right? And then there's another level of discomfort that will happen, and it could be a little scary, whatever. But remember this. You are born in the image and likeness of your creator. Christ said these things you will do, and even greater than I. That's the capacity we have. You start discovering that, you have less fear of change. You have less fear that your comfort zone just disintegrated, and now you got to do things you've never done. But once you do them, guess what? A whole new comfort zone, and you're at peace. And eventually you get to a point where no matter what level of chaos keeps coming, you now blend into this psychology and this spirit of peace, because I can handle this. Oh, this, and I'll finish with this. And this is what I lived through, and it's what got me through. I had this catastrophic, many people know, had this catastrophic gravedigger crash, left me paralyzed and destroyed beyond repair, and in bed for months and months and months and all these things. And even though luckily I understood the Christ consciousness, and I set out to prove it. Luckily for me, it was with me, and I did. But when I was in that horrible situation, I knew and said to myself, this was supposed to happen to me. And when you're in that you're in this wrecked hall, that a prison you're never going to get out of. No, everything's gone, your life, everything you own, business, everything. And you can't do anything. I said to myself, this was supposed to happen to me. This is what's going to basically force me to unleash myself and do and become things that I knew I could do, but probably was afraid to do it, or didn't, the comfort zone, you want to hang on to it. So just know that you have the capacity, and be prepared through this to become who you were born to be, because it's your opportunity to say yes or no. If it comes, you have a choice. I'm going to do this, or you can sit back and basically be in the same vibration, what allowed them to capture the whole planet, keep us in this beating pattern.
And I'll just finish with this, folks. There's no problems. There's challenges, and we need to reframe our language, because if you reframe something from a problem to challenge, suddenly that challenge has a solution. So reframing our language is very, very, very important. There is no failures. There's just lessons, and we grow from these lessons through life, which is just phenomenal. And I'm so excited about the future, and I feel that there's one major thing that needs to be done aside from connecting yourself to God. That's number one, I believe, because I think we're going to be ushered through this together. But what I've seen lacking, and now I think is coming back, and I've been screaming at the top of my lungs for 5 years on this, is community. I think we need to form community. And the deep state apparatus that's involved has intentionally brought us away from this. And I talked about this before. I used to own a construction company that redid the outside of homes, for nice kitchens and patios and so on and so forth, barbecues on the outside of homes. And what I've noticed is we were constantly rebuilding the outside in the backyard, which brought less community, isolated us even more, and we're not vacationing. They called it staycations. And what I started to recommend to people is, I said, do you remember the good old days where people would sit out on the porch and somebody would walk by and they would say hi and they would connect with them? And I would convince people to start building something on the front that would give them some time to say hi to their neighbors when we passed by. And we had several success stories. One I remember really good. This couple, the man and the woman, lost their daughter. And in fact, the woman, as we've heard in cases of loss like this, became a hoarder, right? So there was no peace inside of the house for this guy to go. And him and the wife wanted to build this sanctuary in the backyard. And I said, you want to build that sanctuary? She goes, yes, blah, blah, blah. And I go, what's the big deal about it? And you explained it to him. And then the more questions I asked, he felt like he was isolated. He wasn't part of community anymore. And I said, why don't I, for cost, I will build you also a sanctuary in the front yard where you can hang out, because he'd love to read, and you can talk to your neighbors. The response I got from him, the calls I got from him afterwards, it was life-changing, because he was reconnecting with the people. We need to make a conscious effort to be community. And that may just say hi to everybody when you go into a store, whatever it is. I say to people, wear your favorite shirt with your favorite message. You'd be surprised how many people will comment. But just don't say thank you, then engage them. Because the way we're going to get through this is with our collective consciousness all pushing us in the same direction, in my opinion. And that's through community. And I'm so blessed to be on this tour where people are just coming up to the bus and we're connecting with all types. There was 4 major liberals that I was connecting with that happened to be traveling from England yesterday. And that's fantastic. And I brought them from a place where they hate Trump to, don't you think that conversation amongst everybody is most important, where they agreed with me and they actually retreated and said, you know what, we should have better conversations with people like this. So this is amazing. Our opportunity here to make a difference, I think, is here now. I'm so excited. And I really think that we, the people, are the plan. And we're waking up in a way that we together in community will take our country back. So that's all I have to say, guys. At that, I appreciate you. God bless you. Hey, if you'd like to support my campaign, go to hermsforcali.com. You can volunteer, donate. I would recommend everybody get onto our Facebook page, especially if you want to meet up, because we're going to be constantly updating. Hey, we're here in a half hour. We're here in 45 minutes, an hour. You'll know where we are in California. Just come out and say hi. Get a big hug. We have T-shirts, hats, and so on and so forth, whatever you want to wear. Half the time I give them away. I know I shouldn't, but that is just the way it is. So God bless everybody. Thank you, Scott McKay, Michael Jaco, Bruce Poppy. I'm honored to be with you here this morning, the day before Easter. Take care, guys.